A man accused of killing a tech CEO was already wanted in connection to a deadly rape and arson case. New today, our team questions if law enforcement should have sounded the alarm sooner to warn the public. Then, after the mayor says the suspect should not have been free walking the streets, we asked the governor if he'll press legislators to target repeat offenders in Maryland. Parasites found in local water supplies. The area is currently under a boil advisory, and what happens if you drink it.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
I know this arrest does not bring back Paweł Lapierre or take away the heels of the many victims of Mr. Billingsley. But my hope is at least we can give a sense of closure to the city of Baltimore, the victims of all of his crimes and all of their families.
Tonight, a small sense of relief for family, friends, and, in fact, the community of Paweł Lapierre. Jason Billingsley, the man accused of murdering her, is arrested. He's accused of multiple violent crimes, including the brutal killing of the Baltimore Tech CEO.
That's right. Police say they tracked Billingsley for days before eventually surrounding him with a SWAT team and capturing him at the Mark train station on Laurel Bowie Road in Prince George's County last night. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. Tonight, we are pressing police, lawmakers, and legal experts for answers on why this repeat violent offender was let out of jail in the first place.
And we are also demanding answers to why the public was not alerted to crimes he's suspected of committing days before Lapierre's murder and what's being done to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Now, we have team coverage of the response. Let's start with Alexa Ashwell, who was at the BPD press conference this morning. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Marianne, we just got our hands about an hour ago on these charging documents. They read that Paweł Lapierre's homicide was caused by strangulation and blunt force trauma, but many questions remain about the investigation as well as the handling of the search for Billingsley. Here, accused murderer and rapist Jason Billingsley's mugshot after he was taken into custody at a train station in Bowie, Maryland. Newly obtained court documents shedding new light on two violent crimes police say the convicted felon and sex offender committed just days apart. An attempted murder, rape, and arson in West Baltimore September 19th, then the murder of Paweł Lapierre at her apartment building in Mount Vernon, which investigators are now saying occurred Friday, September 22nd. Lapierre's body discovered on the roof of the building that following Monday. Court documents revealing surveillance video captured the male waving to Lapierre to open the lobby door. She does, then the two can be seen getting onto the elevator together.
We don't know if there are any connections previously to Ms. Lapierre or Mr. Billingsley.
Baltimore police receiving heavy questioning over what the department did know. Billingsley had been identified as the suspect who raped a woman and attempted to kill her and another man inside a home on Edmondson Avenue September 19th. In court documents, the victim told investigators Billingsley identified himself as maintenance, that he kicked in the front door, pointed a gun at her, duct taped her and handcuffed the other victim, then raped, slashed, and set them on fire. A warrant was issued for Billingsley's arrest not long after, but the public never notified when questioned.
This was not a random act of violence.
Acting Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley said there was no indication Billingsley was committing random acts and investigators were actively tracking him.
You said Billingsley was being tracked, yet he was still able to commit another violent, heinous act. How is that so? And at what point do you weigh the community safety? This was a violent rapist who was roaming the streets of Baltimore and the public had no idea. Could this knowledge have prevented Paweł's death?
I'm not going to speculate whether it could have prevented her death, but what I know we did is as soon as we realized that there was a public safety, we had the press conference.
So why didn't BPD reveal Billingsley was in fact the suspect in both cases during the initial press conference? The acting commissioner said the Edmondson victims needed protection.
Because there was two victims from Edmondson Avenue that were still out. One was in the hospital, one was at their location. We had to get them protection if we were going to put that information out.
Worley questioned on public trust.
If we made a mistake, I'd tell you we made a mistake like I did in Brooklyn. I don't think we made a mistake in this case.
Now, Billingsley is facing charges related to 3 cases. The third, the gun theft. According to court documents, he stole a gun from the safe of a friend's home in Owings Mills. Investigators have not yet said if Billingsley was armed when he was arrested. He, of course, is being held without bond. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Last night in Mount Vernon, Pava LaPere's friends, family, and neighbors gathered to mourn her loss and remember her. Her father, mother, and brother thanked the community for welcoming their daughter to the city.
She was the definition of daddy's little girl. She had me wrapped and still does. So I want to thank you all for being here and for loving our daughter and taking care of her.
In the wake of her death, many are asking her why her accused killer was even out on the streets in the first place. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker continues our live team coverage with a closer look at the decision made by the judge in this case. Maxine?
Well, Mary, the plea agreed to in this case was not only below the guidelines. We've learned that the judge was reluctant to accept the plea in the first place.
It was 2015 when Jason Billingsley pled guilty to a first-degree sex offense. Sentenced to 30 years in prison, he struck a plea deal where he was only ordered to serve 14 years.
And the plea was a little bit below guidelines. With every single case, there are different issues that you have to look at.
According to the court transcript, Judge Emanuel Brown said he didn't think the sentence was long enough, noting the prosecutors struck the agreement when the victim in the case didn't want to testify.
We even know that the judge who handled the case was a little reluctant in terms of accepting that plea bargain.
Retired Judge Wanda Keys Hurd, who was not associated with this case, spent 21 years on the bench in Baltimore City Circuit Court, at one point serving as chief judge. She says they do their best with the information they're given, saying in sex offense cases it can be especially difficult for victims to testify.
In that instance, if you're having problems with your witness, the judge then has to weigh whether or not going along with the guilty plea is worth the chance versus the alternative, which would be no guilty finding at all. In other words, if the victim doesn't cooperate, it is very likely the state can't prove their case.
Ultimately, Billingsley was released last October on good behavior credits, a decision not made by the judge. But other judges' decisions have been called into question in Baltimore in several recent cases. Right there. Judge Melissa Finn has handed out a series of high-profile rulings, including the decision to vacate Adnan Syed's murder sentence, which was later reinstated.
This is crazy.
She also accepted a plea deal from Marilyn Mosby's office that released convicted arsonist Luther Trent. Trent served less than 6 months in jail after he admitted to trying to burn down his ex-girlfriend's house. Finn eventually overturned the plea deal. Last June, police say Austin Davidson killed a Wicomico County Sheriff's deputy. In 2019, he'd faced 20 years for armed robbery, but Judge Finn sentenced him to probation before judgment, setting him free. And days after that case, Fox 45 News learned Joseph Black, the man accused of hitting and dragging a police officer with his car, was also out on a plea deal from Finn's courtroom. He had been charged with attempted homicide, but that was pleaded down to handgun charges, setting him free after serving 20 months. Providing such information to the public was the goal of the Judicial Transparency Act, which aimed to produce a report card for judges detailing the sentences and plea deals offered, along with their names. The plan passed, but without the names of the judges released with the data.
This creates as much transparency as a brick wall. They're hiding behind a closed courtroom and behiin their robe.
However, Hurd says the information is all there for the public to find.
Most people can find out where the case was and who arraigned the case, who heard any motions on the case, and where the jury trial was set, and how many days it was there, and who sentenced the defendant. Yeah. That's information you can find if you want it. So I don't know. I don't agree with you that it's a secret. And it's not known, and I just don't agree with that.
She says it's important to remember judges are voted into office, and if you don't trust their judgment, you can elect someone else.
I know as a judge for 21 years, I didn't get a crystal ball that told me whether I should or should not release someone on probation. You make your best considered judgment decision. That's why the citizens hired you, and I literally mean hired you. The citizens of Baltimore City vote for the judges, and they trust your judgment, and you exercise that judgment without a crystal ball.
Police and prosecutors are vowing that Billingsley will not walk the streets again. State's Attorney Ivan Bates saying that they will seek life without parole. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Jason Billingsley has a history of violence. He pleaded guilty to assault in 2009 and 2011. He also pleaded guilty to a first-degree sex offense in 2015. For that charge, which Maxine just detailed, he was sentenced to 30 years, with 16 years of that sentence being suspended.
The most recent crime is reigniting a push for stronger laws to address repeat violent offenders in Annapolis. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost pressed Governor Wes Moore on whether the law needs to change. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Guy, the governor says that Pavel LaPere was failed, and he says there needs to be a law on the books to ensure that repeat violent offenders are held accountable. But remember, there has been a bill introduced in Annapolis year after year that supporters say would do just that.
I want to make sure that in the next session, and our administration will be working closely with the administration to make sure that we have bills that will make it to my desk that can be pushed, moved, and that I can sign that can make sure we're getting repeat violent offenders off of our streets.
Are you demanding the Democrats to do that?
I'm going to be working with our legislature to ensure that we can have legislation that will move, make it to my desk, and that I will sign to make sure we're getting and keeping violent offenders off of our streets.
Not a direct answer there from the governor when we asked him about specifically the bill, the Repeat Violent Offenders Bill, the Violent Firearms Offender Act, that supporters say would have implemented tougher penalties. Kai?
And Mackenzie, what are we learning about the diminution credit system that resulted in Billingsley's release from prison in the first place?
Yeah, that was a big part of the news conference earlier today. It's a system that essentially allows inmates to accrue good time credits for their behavior so long as nothing goes wrong. And it's the reason why he was released despite getting denied parole twice. Coming up at 5, we'll take a closer look at this law and really what some lawmakers as well as Governor Wes Moore are saying about this system potentially making some changes. That's at 5. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Mackenzie, thank you. And that brings us to our question of the day. Do Maryland's current crime laws make you feel more safe or less safe? So far, 95% of those who voted say less safe. You can make your voice heard by going to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
We are following some breaking news. Another Baltimore City leader is leaving her position. Irene Augustin, the head of Baltimore's Homeless Services Agency, has resigned. We're not sure of the reason why yet. Augustin was appointed by Mayor Scott in 2021. Her tenure has been tumultuous. Just this year, the city lost nearly $11 million in federal money because of clerical errors in the office. Fox 45 News spoke with council member Eric Costello about the state of the agency.
Well, there are a number of simple administrative tasks that did not occur. They were justified as not occurring because there were turnover in that office and that certain individuals in the office didn't have access to credentials. Credentials are the username and the password.
Well, the city says her role will be filled by October 16th.
There's a water advisory impacting the Baltimore region. The parasite found in drinking water that could make some people sick.
The Baltimore City school system refusing to answer our questions on failing city schools. The new push from Project Baltimore to hold leaders accountable for city students' education.
And we're getting ready for the chance for a few showers tonight, followed by a few showers once again tomorrow. But we're back to nice and dry weather tomorrow night, and we stay dry for the weekend. Coming up, I'll break down the timing of the rain and what to expect for the weekend and my full forecast.
A boil water advisory is in effect right now for some parts of Baltimore, Baltimore County, even Howard County. The Baltimore City Department of Public Works says a parasite was detected in the Druid Lake Reservoir, and certain vulnerable populations are being advised to consider precautions.
The impacted areas are highlighted in red on this map, red and gray right there. You can see it stretches to neighborhoods across the greater Baltimore area. Fox 45's Amy Simpson joins us live with details on this. Amy?
Yes, that parasite, that microscopic parasite called Cryptosporidium was detected, DPW says, in low levels in Druid Lake earlier this month. And it could impact the water supply in portions, like you said, here of Baltimore City, as well as both Baltimore County and Howard County. Here's a timeline of what we know. A water sample was taken from Druid Lake on September 19th. Today, DPW's interim director said those results take about 5 to 7 days to come back. The city finally learning of that contamination earlier this week on Tuesday, September 26th. And then public notification of this contamination began today, September 28th. That's 9 days after the original water sample was collected. Now, today, Baltimore City officials were adamant this parasite is not a threat to, they said, the general population. But this map shows just how large the potential impact zone is, impacting more than 570,000 residents who are customers of Baltimore City Water's regional authority, stretching across 3 jurisdictions. Officials sharing a warning today for the elderly, those with young children, and the immunocompromised.
We know that Cryptosporidia infections can cause diarrhea, can cause a lot of GI upset, vomiting, can occasionally cause fever. The levels are low based on current data, but if there's any concern about the water supply, then we recommend using bottled water for those populations.
And you may remember it was just last September when Baltimore City faced major blowback for its response and slow public notification of an E. coli contamination in West Baltimore. Some now already questioning the city's response and timing of the public to this current contamination of Cryptosporidium, a different bacteria. How the city is responding, that's coming up at 5:30. We're live in Baltimore. Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
All right, Orioles fans, the Orioles magic number down to 1. That means the next time the O's win or Tampa Bay loses, the Orioles will win the AL East. How about that?
I like the sound of it. A live look at Camden Yards right now. The Orioles are suiting up for what could be the biggest game of the season. A win tonight would mean the O's win the division, as Kai said, for the first time since 2014, and earn home field advantage during the playoffs.
That's right. Now, fans are on the edge of their seats, as you can imagine, hoping to see that champagne popping tonight, or the beer hose, whatever you want to call it. And this is what they're saying tonight. How about this one, folks? See you tomorrow. You better know that. And here, see you tomorrow, Birdland. Absolutely. This one, I love this one right here. From ESPN, the Orioles are 40 games over 500 for the first time since the final day of the 1979 season. And how about this one here, the last one, folks? Do it for Brooks. You can say that Brooks Robinson, the late, great Brooks Robinson, is the spirit beneath the wings of the Birds right now. What do you think, Mary?
I think you are right. And Fox 45 is your home for the 2023 World Series. The series starts Friday, October 27th. You can watch every game right here on Fox 45. All right, time for a check of our weather. Sort of a mixed day today.
Yeah, I saw some sun.
Did you see some sun?
Yeah.
I did too.
I swept off the deck. It was nasty.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
After all that rain,
Yes.
right? I know.
Oh, and unfortunately, we have another chance for a few showers, but we're not looking at a washout. So not terrible. And once we get through a little bit of rain, we're talking a much drier weekend with plenty of sunshine, especially on Sunday when temperatures return to the 80s. Currently 70, though, with mostly cloudy skies and a great view of Camden Yards in the background. As we take a look around the state, we're seeing some of the highest temperatures around our area. Frederick, Westminster, seeing some of those higher numbers in the 70s, but otherwise mainly the 60s across Maryland right now. Now we are dry still, not much happening on the HD radar, but this is going to change as we get ready for our next weather maker. You'll notice we're keeping track of a few showers starting to move into Pennsylvania. We'll have our chance for showers tonight, and so waking up tomorrow morning, you may notice that. Otherwise, our temperatures will fall to the 50s and 60s, keeping things pretty mild. Then for the afternoon, those temperatures only reaching the upper 60s. We have the chance for a few showers, but not a washout for the day. We'll have a much drier weekend as we continue on Saturday and Sunday. And we're also talking rising temperatures, so the low 70s on Saturday, and then we rise to the 80s on Sunday. So a very gorgeous weekend ahead of us. On the future scan, you'll notice that those showers start to move in as we get closer to 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Now, these will be very spotty. Not everyone will see rain. And starting off tomorrow morning, it looks mostly cloudy. There could be a stray shower and a few wet roads, so make sure that you check the radar before heading out. For the afternoon, it still looks pretty good. We'll have a little more sunshine start to appear. And even for your commute home during the evening, nice and dry. We'll stay mostly dry overnight and into Saturday. Then for the afternoon, a little more sunshine. Much of that rain will stay away from us. 60 for the low temperature, mild temperatures for us. Then as we head into the day tomorrow, our highs reach 69, keeping us on the cooler side of things. But we do have that warm up that's coming for the rest of the weekend. We'll be around 73 with partly cloudy skies on Saturday, then nice and sunny with highs around 80 on Sunday. This is followed by 81 on Monday. We'll stay in the upper 70s and the low 80s once again on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then for Thursday, still talking plenty of sunshine. Our temperatures will be above average with highs around 77. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Is Maryland headed for a budget deficit? The new concerns over the state's spending and how it impacts you.
I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington with a look at the first impeachment inquiry hearing into President Joe Biden. The arguments both sides are making.
A live look at the U.S. Capitol right now in the White House. The GOP-led Oversight Committee just wrapped up its first hearing in their impeachment inquiry of President Joe Biden. National correspondent Christine Frizzau has the latest from Washington.
Hunter Biden's business dealings long under investigation by the Senate, the Department of Justice, and most recently, the House Oversight Committee. But it's this question that remains central to the impeachment inquiry into his father, President Joe Biden.
What were the Bidens selling to make all this money?
House Republicans have long argued Hunter Biden had little experience or power to earn positions on the boards of companies like Burisma Energy in Ukraine or CEFC in China, that he was instead paid as a sort of middleman between the company and Joe Biden, then serving as vice president.
Whether it was lunches, phone calls, White House meetings, or official foreign trips, Hunter Biden cashed in by arranging access to Joe Biden, the family brand.
GOP lawmakers have for months insisted the firing of Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin in 2016 was not for reasons of corruption, as Biden and others have said, but because Shokin was investigating Burisma.
This is an embarrassment.
Critics accusing Republicans of using emails and other messages from when Joe Biden was neither in office nor a candidate as evidence of his wrongdoing.
If the Republicans had a smoking gun or even a dripping water pistol, they would be presenting it today, but they've got nothing on Joe Biden.
Even a key Republican witness said while an inquiry was warranted, the burden of proof has not yet been met.
I do not believe that the current evidence would support articles of impeachment. That is something that an inquiry has to establish.
In addition to making the case Joe Biden benefited from his son's business deals, Republicans are also trying to prove that his Justice Department had a hand in covering up parts of the investigation into his son, a claim Attorney General Merrick Garland has repeatedly denied. In Washington, I'm Christine Frizzau.
The top Republican candidates going head-to-head with one major exception, an expert weighing in on what Donald Trump's refusal to debate means for the GOP primary. And next, gone. Maryland's budget surplus is disappearing, the growing concern over state spending.
As we prepare to introduce our next budget for fiscal year 2025 come January, the administration's work is cut out for us.
Well, tonight, state leaders are taking a hard look at Maryland's financial future amid reports of a massive deficit looming. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is looking out for your tax dollars.
She joins us live with more on how this could impact everyone in Maryland. Rebecca?
Tonight, new budget projections still putting the state's bank account in the negatives within the next decade. It's a timeline that could also be sped up if a government shutdown were to occur. But regardless of what happens on the federal level, our state's slowing economy leaves lawmakers with few options: cut spending or raise taxes. With revenues on the decline, should spending remain the same, the Department of Legislative Services is projecting a structural deficit of $418 million by 2025, a deficit that will continue to grow to $1.8 billion in 2028, emptying the state's current reserves.
We must continue to proceed with a degree of caution moving forward.
These low growth rates do not keep pace with growth in expenditures, hence the structural deficit that we face.
To prevent higher taxes, political analysts tell me costly legislative promises made by Governor Wes Moore could be on the chopping block, including the blueprint for Maryland's future, scheduled to increase education funding by $3.8 billion each year over the next 8 years, and the red line, another multi-billion-dollar investment in mass transit. Coming up tonight at 5:30, hear more from taxpayer advocates on why they believe that raising taxes would only put Maryland deeper into debt. Reporting live, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Fox 45 tries to get answers from Baltimore City schools after a recent investigation found 13 high schools where 0 students who took the state math test scored proficient.
And that investigation went viral, making national headlines. But when Project Baltimore's Chris Papps went to the city school board meeting Tuesday night, the school system made it clear they did not want to talk.
Baltimore City Schools has a $1.7 billion budget per student. That's one of the highest in the nation among large school systems. But a Project Baltimore investigation found math scores across the district are alarmingly low. And this is not necessarily a new problem, but who is going to take action to fix it? These are the main players who could. About 70% of Baltimore City Schools' budget comes from the state. About 20% comes from the city. The State Board of Education oversees all public schools in Maryland. So who is going to take action to improve student outcomes in Baltimore City? We start by trying to get answers from City Schools leadership. Project Baltimore went to Baltimore City Schools headquarters hoping to speak with CEO Dr. Sony Santelises or board member before Tuesday's board meeting.
Or where you want the camera inside the board. Or outside. Or one side.
We wanted to ask them about the most recent state test results, but right away, the district made it clear. District leaders did not want to talk.
Is this a new rule? It's not. It's not a new, it's just never been enforced. I guess it's never been enforced.
Minutes after we arrived, a police officer and a district spokesperson told us we were not allowed to record in the atrium at the entrance to the boardroom, where public meetings are held every month and where members of the media regularly wait to conduct interviews.
Never been in here running a camera.
I've been in here for years running a camera. Okay, so you're enforcing the policy now. Okay, we're going to go in here. Okay.
Inside the boardroom, we were told no one from City Schools leadership would be speaking with us.
Who do you want to talk to? Anyone who would talk to me at this point.
After years of Baltimore City Schools refusing to sit down with us to answer questions of public concern, we anticipated this. So Project Baltimore sent our questions in this letter to the school board, which was read Tuesday evening during public comment.
And our last public comment is from Chris Papps, and his affiliation is FOX45 and CAP scores, and this is a letter that I will read for him.
Since school leaders wouldn't let us ask our questions in person, we had the board executive ask them for us.
Do you find these results acceptable? If not, what are you doing to correct this? Who should the community hold accountable?
Our letter discussed how over the last 10 days, Fox 45's reporting has gone viral. We obtained from a source the unredacted results of state test scores from this past spring. We found 13 high schools where 0 students who took the state test scored proficient in math. At the 5 top performing high schools, a combined 809 students took the state math test. and just 11% scored proficient. Media outlets around the nation reported on our findings. And during this board meeting, Dr. Santelises defended her school system.
Despite what some media outlets would have you believe, we are making progress.
Santelises criticized the Project Baltimore report, saying some of the students at the 5 top city high schools were not included in the results because they took the state math test before entering high school.
In fact, many of the students at the 5 high schools referenced in a recent news story, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, Baltimore School for the Arts, Baltimore City College, Western High School, and Bard High School Early College Baltimore, had already passed the Algebra MCAT test before entering those schools.
Santelises did not explain how many students took the test before entering those high schools, but she did say most grades in 2023 saw math proficiencies improve from the previous year.
We are firmly committed to building on this improvement.
During her remarks, which she made before hearing Project Baltimore's letter, Santelises never addressed the 13 high schools where 0 students tested proficient in math.
When Project Baltimore revealed these results,
and after our letter was read, our questions remained unanswered.
this is a major issue of public concern. Baltimore City Schools will receive nearly $2 billion from taxpayers this year. What message does this board have for the families who attend these 13 high schools where 0 students tested proficient in math? Should parents be concerned when even the best schools in Baltimore City have so few students who tested proficient in math? We believe parents and taxpayers deserve answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to move into board committee reports.
Baltimore City Schools did not answer our questions. So on Monday, watch as we show you what happened when we took our questions to these city and state officials. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
As Commander-in-Chief, I'm going to use the U.S. military to go after the Mexican drug cartels. They are killing our people.
Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy. Put people back to work.
We need to make sure we put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job.
Well, last night, the Republican candidates went head-to-head in their second debate, some taking shots at former President Trump, who has already announced he won't be participating in the third debate either. Fox 45's Shannon Lilly taking a look at the field and the impact Trump's absence is having.
The race for the White House continues as Republican presidential hopefuls went head-to-head last night for the second presidential debate. Noticeably absent, criminally indicted former President Donald Trump, who leads the GOP polls by a wide margin. Trump has skipped both debates and says he's polling so high it's not worth his time. So the blaring question here, are the other Republican candidates just vying for second place? Doug Eldridge, head of Achilles PR, believes the only way Trump can be defeated is if he's taken out of the Republican primary race due to his criminal charges. But Eldridge's big takeaway from last night, Trump came out the winner.
He's got a 30-point lead at a minimum, depending on which poll you take a look at. But he also was above the fray, at least insofar as not taking any slings or arrows and not having to expend any ammunition in the process, firing counterpunches at what at times kind of seemed like an apple dumpling gang there up on the stage. So I do think he came out the winner, if for no other reason than he took no hits and expended no bullets.
Another focus in something that impacts all of us, the economy. The candidates pointing out how Americans are suffering financially. Eldridge doesn't think they drove that point home enough.
Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And I tweeted that right before the debate started, and I was shocked that not only did the moderators not frame that in a question, but none of the candidates bit that shiny lure on the hook. That was the line to run with in terms of addressing the economy. You've seen a massive shift in every sector, every city, and every demographic economically. That's something that every American, irrespective of party, can relate to. That was a unifying, tying, binding point, and all of them missed it. So I don't think they hammered the economy, not only from a issue spotting and problematic standpoint, but a solution-oriented position platform. I thought that was a huge miss.
The next GOP debate is set for November 8th in Miami, with steeper qualifications to make it to that debate stage. We'll keep a close eye on how this all plays out. Shannon Lilly, Fox 45 News.
Here's a live look at Capitol Hill tonight, where lawmakers are desperately trying to reach a spending agreement. The federal government will shut down unless a deal is made. The White House is calling on House Republicans to back the Senate's bipartisan stopgap bill, but Republican infighting is preventing that plan from passing in the House. Taxpayer advocate David Williams says a shutdown could be disastrous.
Then you have small business loans. There won't be any small business loans through the Small Business Administration. They will stop. The Women, Infants, and Children program. This is a critical program for low-income folks. This is for pregnant women. This is women that are nursing and children under 5 for low-income folks. And this is a discretionary program, so the funding stops. Money doesn't go out the door on Monday.
Well, for our full coverage on the potential shutdown and David Williams' full interview, head to foxbaltimore.com.
I'm Angela Brown in Washington, D.C. We're taking a look at the shift in the job market as more Americans work longer.
And we are getting ready for our next chance for showers as our latest weather maker moves into our region. I'll let you know the timing of the rain and when to expect a drier pattern in my full forecast.
Americans who don't have enough money to retire are now working longer, and experts say that's causing a big shift in the workplace. The National Desk Angela Brown examines the trend.
Gen Z made up more than 13% of the civilian labor force last year. But TikTok influencers like Gabrielle Judge, who coined the term lazy girl job, are driving the conversation.
I think that we will see employers start to realize, like, hey, people do want to work in a different way. How can we adjust to that?
And employers are listening, many making changes to retain and hire Gen Z and millennials like Mallory Young.
People are acknowledging that we have lives outside of work. So I think people are just more cognizant of that, especially managers.
But more Americans are working past retirement age. Globally, by 2030, a whopping 150 million jobs will shift to workers over the age of 55, based on a new global study from Bain & Company.
The frustration in organizations was always, when are the boomers or when is the oldest generation going to retire so the rest of us have a chance? The problem with that now is there isn't this great pipeline of people waiting to take those jobs.
Career specialist Julie Bauke says companies need to create a multi-generational workplace strategy as older workers rise in importance.
You can't run a company on all Gen Z and millennials. You just can't. You have to have that wisdom.
And get this, the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis says seniors between the ages of 65 and 69 are more likely to have a job than teens between 16 and 19. Reporting in Washington, D.C., I'm Angela Brown.
Well, meantime, as Generation Xers approach retirement, many fear they don't have enough money put aside. In fact, a new report shows the median retirement savings for members of Generation X about $40,000, and only 14% have a pension.
Even when I stopped working a corporate job, pensions weren't a thing anymore. I just assumed a retirement is never going to be something that I do.
We have employers who aren't offering 401ks or they're not matching. So if we can't save for the short term, how can we save for the long term?
Good questions. Experts say economic crises over the past 2 decades have made it difficult for Gen Xers to save the money they need to retire comfortably. Well, next week, the Baltimore Orioles will host a public memorial for Brooks Robinson. Robinson spent his entire 23-year career playing for Baltimore. He won an MVP award, 16 Gold Gloves, and was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. The Orioles say that memorial will recognize the impact that he made on the city, the organization, and the entire sport of baseball. Now, that memorial will happen at Camden Yards Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Looking live at Camden Yards right now, it is a big night for the Orioles. A win tonight would clinch the AL East and guarantee home field advantage in the playoffs for the O's. And a lot of you got out to the ballpark last night, while others showed their support for the home team. June sent us this picture of Puppy the cat. Get it? Puppy the cat? Watching the big game. And I'm sure out there somewhere there's a dog named Cat. We want to see how you're cheering on the O's this season. Just scan the QR code on your screen. That will take you to foxbaltimore.com/chime in, where you can upload your pictures and videos. It's all powered by Stackla. And remember, you can catch the American League playoff action, which includes the O's, right here on Fox 45. Coverage of the ALCS, and the ALCS starts October 10th. Be there. Be right here watching Fox 45. The World Series begins October 27th, and you can watch every second, every pitch of the game right here on Fox 45. Jasmine, is Caramel all dressed up in O's garb?
So that's the one thing she's missing. She has her Ravens jersey. Now I need to get her one for the Orioles. I'm sure she would not like it, but I think she'd be pretty cute. Here's a nice view of Camden Yards in the background, and it's still very cloudy outside. We're dry, but we do have the chance for a few stray showers later. We're not looking at a washout. 70 for the current temperature with winds around 7 miles. Across the rest of the state, many areas in the 60s. It's been a little cool, a little gloomy today, but again, we're still nice and dry right now. Not too much to see on the HD radar around the state, but when we take a larger look, you can see some areas with showers around the region. We'll have our next chance for showers tonight. So if you are going anywhere, just make sure that you are prepared. Otherwise, temperatures fall to the 50s and 60s. Then by the afternoon, high temperatures only reaching the upper 60s. That's well below average for this time of year, but we have a rising trend for the weekend. We'll be around 73 on Saturday. We'll stay mostly dry and then get ready for a gorgeous end to the weekend on Sunday. Expect plenty of sunshine and temperatures around 80 degrees, so a big warm up. Notice as we get closer to 9, 10, 11 o'clock, we are tracking some showers around the state, but the rain would be on the lighter side. This does begin to taper, and it looks pretty good tomorrow morning as you drive around 7 or 8 o'clock. Mostly cloudy, but still the chance for a few areas of drizzle. Then as we head into the afternoon, rain chances start to taper, and we'll have some more sunshine. Not a washout by any means tomorrow. As we continue overnight and into Saturday morning, we wake up to a few clouds. There's the chance for a stray shower along the eastern shore. Otherwise, get ready for a gorgeous day for Saturday and an even nicer one on Sunday. 60 for the low temperature tonight. Then tomorrow, our highs will be below average, 69 for the high. We've got the chance for a few showers, but not a washout for the day tomorrow. Then we're looking at mostly dry weather on Saturday, 73 for the high. This is followed by 80 and sunshine on Sunday. We'll be around 81 on Monday, and then through the middle of the week, our temperatures still remain above average. It'll feel nice and comfortable with a low humidity and plenty of sunshine. 80 for the high on Tuesday and again on Wednesday. Then for Thursday, we see a slight drop in temperatures, but we're still talking a nice and dry pattern. Our highs will be around 77 with partly cloudy skies. Back to you.
Thank you, Jasmine. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone. Use our powerful Doppler radar to follow storms to your street. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started. Well, we would like to welcome someone new to the Fox 45 News family. Everyone meet Madison Maeve, the beautiful new daughter of meteorologist Amy Aronson and Ben Worsley, Fox 45's former chief photographer. Well, Madison was born September 24th at 9 a.m. sharp, weighing 7 pounds, 13 ounces. Amy says she's already a little ray of sunshine and that she's doing amazing. Congratulations, Amy and Ben. Madison Maeve, welcome to the world. You are beautiful. Well, coming up at 5 o'clock on Fox 45, Baltimore's Inspector General finds city schools failed to contribute toward employees' retirement accounts. Inspector General Isabel Cumming will join us live to explain how it happened. If you're in the mood for some medieval merriment, barbaric feast, magic and wonder, then Crownsville is the place for you. We'll check out what's happening at the Renaissance Festival. No. Well, hear ye, the Renaissance Festival is back in Maryland with sport the likes of which you've never seen. That's the beginning and end of my my talent there. Earlier today, Fox 45 News was in Crownsville as another year the Maryland Renaissance Festival gets underway. Tickets already sold out for Saturday, But you can get in on the entertainment throughout the month of October. From unique performances and creatures to tasty feasts and crafts that take you through medieval times. There's something for everybody.
Here at the Maryland Renaissance Festival, you can see acrobats climbing all over each other. You can see jousters smashing into each other.
There's always something new every day, every weekend. There's always something that is unexpected.
Is she larger than most eagles?
No, she's actually kind of relatively small overall. She weighs about 9 3/4 pounds, has almost a 6-foot wingspan.
It is literally our job to make people smile. And how many people get to do that?
Well, head to foxbaltimore.com for news links and dates and tickets for RenFest, the Renaissance Festival in Maryland.
We are getting ready for a gorgeous weekend. First tomorrow, though, we start with a few showers, not a washout for the day. High temperatures reach 69 for the afternoon. Then we see a slight rise in those numbers for Saturday, highs around 73. We'll have a mix of sunshine and clouds and then expect nice and sunny skies on Sunday. Our temperatures will be in the upper 70s and low 80s. That's above average, and that warm trend continues as we make our way into the work week. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at the timing of the rain and just how long the warm temperatures stick around in about 20 minutes. Back to you.
All right, Jasmine, thank you. The Powerball jackpot is $925 million after no one had the winning numbers last night. Last night's prize would have been the 4th largest jackpot prize in the game's history, and it's getting bigger. The next drawing is Saturday. We'll tell you what those numbers are when they're drawn. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, calls grow louder to impeach President Joe Biden from Republicans. The new poll shining a light on how Americans feel. Frustration with BGE. One business owner expresses his anger after his building burned down.
An arrest made for the murder of a promising Baltimore tech CEO. Fox 45 News pressing leaders on why the public was left in the dark about a previous brutal crime he's also suspected in.
Raising questions on why such a dangerous man was walking free. We speak to a former judge on how he slipped through the cracks.
And taking a live look from Camden Yards tonight, anticipation is building as the O's look to clinch their first AL East title in 9 years. We break down the highlights heading into the big game.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
It's heartbreaking
that she is no longer here with us, especially at the hands of someone who, as I said the other day, should not have been on the streets in the first place. We will continue to make sure that we are working with our state's attorney and our partners to make sure that he does not get that same fate again, that he does not get back out on the streets here in Baltimore with the opportunity to harm others.
Today, the city officially announces the arrest of the man accused in multiple crimes, including the murder of a young, successful tech CEO, Pavel Lapierre. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. Police say they tracked Billingsley for days before eventually surrounding him with a SWAT team and capturing him at the MARC train station on Laurel Bowie Road in Prince George's County late last night.
Fox 45 News is questioning police and city leaders on why a violent repeat offender was let out of prison in the first place and why the public wasn't alerted to the crimes he's suspected of committing days before Lapierre's murder.
Well, we have live team coverage tonight covering all angles of this developing case.
We begin with Alexa Ashwell and new information she's gotten in the last couple of hours. Alexa?
Yes, Kai, Mary, according to these court documents, investigators ruled Pavel Lapierre's death a homicide by strangulation and blunt force trauma. But many questions remain regarding this investigation, as well as the handling of the search for Billingsley. Here, accused murderer and rapist Jason Billingsley's mugshot after he was taken into custody at a train station in Bowie, Maryland. Newly obtained court documents shedding new light on two violent crimes police say the convicted felon and sex offender committed just days apart. An attempted murder, rape, and arson in West Baltimore September 19th, then the murder of Pavel Lapierre at her apartment building in Mount Vernon, which investigators are now saying occurred Friday, September 22nd. Lapierre's body discovered on the roof of the building that following Monday. Court documents revealing surveillance video captured the male waving to Lapierre to open the lobby door. She does, then the two can be seen getting onto the elevator together.
We don't know if there are any connections previously to Miss Lapierre or Mr. Billingsley.
Baltimore police receiving heavy questioning over what the department did know. Billingsley had been identified as the suspect who raped a woman and attempted to kill her and another man inside a home on Edmondson Avenue September 19th. In court documents, the victim told investigators Billingsley identified himself as maintenance, that he kicked in the front door, pointed a gun at her, duct taped her and handcuffed the other victim, then raped, slashed, and set them on fire. A warrant was issued for Billingsley's arrest not long after, but the public never notified when questioned.
This was not a random act of violence.
Acting Baltimore Police Commissioner Richard Worley said there was no indication Billingsley was committing random acts and investigators were actively tracking him. You said Billingsley was being tracked, yet he was still able to commit another violent, heinous act. How is that so? And at what point do you weigh the community's safety? This was a violent rapist who was roaming the streets of Baltimore and the public had no idea. Could this knowledge have prevented Pavel's death?
I'm not going to speculate whether it could have prevented her death, but what I know we did is as soon as we realized that there was a public safety, we had the press conference.
So why didn't BPD reveal Billingsley was in fact the suspect in both cases during the initial press conference? The acting commissioner said the Edmondson victims needed protection.
Because there was two victims from Edmondson Avenue that were still out. One was in the hospital, one was at their location. We had to get them protection if we were going to put that information out.
Worley questioned on public trust.
If we made a mistake, I'd tell you we made a mistake like I did in Brooklyn. I don't think we made a mistake in this case.
So Billingsley is facing charges related to 3 cases. The third, the gun theft charge. According to court documents, Billingsley stole a gun from a safe of a friend's home in Owings Mills September 25th. Investigators have not yet said if he was in fact armed at the time of his arrest. He, of course, is being held without bond. Alexa Ashwell, Fox 45 News.
Alexa, thank you. Well, last night in Mount Vernon, Pavel Lapierre's friends, family, and neighbors gathered to celebrate her life. Her father, mother, and brother thanking the community for being so good to their daughter.
She was the definition of daddy's little girl. She had me wrapped and still does. So I want to thank you all for being here and for loving our daughter and taking care of her.
In the wake of Powerball's death, many are asking why her accused killer was out on the streets in the first place. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker continues our live team coverage right now with a closer look at the decision made by the judge in this case. Maxine?
Well, Kai, the plea agreed to in this case was not only below the guidelines, the judge also expressed reluctance in accepting the plea to begin with. Now, ultimately, Billingsley was released October of last year on good behavior credits, a decision not made by the judge, but other judges' decisions have been called into question in Baltimore in several recent cases. Judge Melissa Finn has handed out a series of high-profile rulings, including accepting a plea deal from Marilyn Mosby's office that released convicted arsonist Luther Trent. There was also the case last June where police say Austin Davidson killed a Wicomico County Sheriff's deputy. In 2019, Davidson faced 20 years for armed robbery, but Judge Finn sentenced him to probation before judgment, setting him free. Now, providing such information to the public was the goal of the Judicial Transparency Act. It aimed to produce a report card, essentially, for judges detailing the sentences and plea deals offered with their names. That plan did pass, but without the names of the judges released, and some argue that it's not transparent enough. However, retired Judge Wanda Keys-Heard says the information is all out there for the public to find.
Most people can find out where the case was, and who arraigned the case, who heard any motions on the case, and where the jury trial was set, and how many days it was there, and who sentenced the defendant.
Yeah.
That's information you can find if you want it. So I don't know. I don't agree with you that it's a secret and it's not known. And, I just don't agree with that.
Now, she says it's important to remember that judges are voted into office. So if you don't like the decisions they're making, you can elect someone else. Reporting live in Baltimore, Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
Maxine, thank you. Jason Billingsley has a long history of violence. He pled guilty to assault in 2009 and 2011. He also pled guilty to a first-degree sex offense in 2015. For that sex charge, which Maxine just detailed, he was sentenced to 30 years in prison with 16 years of that sentence suspended.
Rapists shouldn't be let out early, period. When you rape someone, no matter if it's someone's daughter, son, their wife, you should not get out early, period.
Mayor Scott isn't mincing words when it comes to the frustration building after suspect Jason Billingsley was released from prison for good time served. His release is because of current laws.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost continues our live team coverage after questioning Governor Moore about what he wants to see change. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai and Mary, Jason Billingsley is described as a repeat violent offender. And we know there have been several attempts to pass legislation in Annapolis that supporters say would have implemented tougher penalties for this specific situation. So today we're questioning Governor Wes Moore to find out if he's going to demand lawmakers, specifically Democrats, to take action. Maryland law is under the microscope again. Jason Billingsley suspected of brutally killing Baltimore Tech CEO Pavel Lapierre at her apartment building. Despite being denied parole twice, Billingsley released in October 2022 after serving 2/3 of a sentence for a first-degree sex offense.
In the state of Maryland, you can earn what's called diminution credits. It was more or less the systematic, to me, failure in terms of what happened.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates says the diminution credit system should be re-evaluated, especially since in 2016, the Justice Reinvestment Act allowed Billingsley, who is a convicted sex offender, to tally up good behavior credits.
Maybe the legislature could maybe look at what first-degree sex offense or first-degree rape. Are these individuals still going to be eligible for diminution credits?
While touring Baltimore City Community College, we pressed Governor Wes Moore. When will we see you demand lawmakers take action to ensure that a suspect like this doesn't get released to commit another heinous crime like we saw?
Pava was a light, and she was a leader in our community. She was a leader in their tech community, and she was failed. I want results, and we've got to move on this because Pava was failed, and we have to do a better job of making sure we have laws in the books that are protecting our community and getting these violent offenders off of our streets.
There was a bill introduced during last session and several years prior that would have targeted violent repeat offenders, and it never moved. Will that change during next session?
I want to make sure that in the next session, and our administration will be working closely with the administration to make sure that we have bills that will make it to my desk that can be pushed, moved, and that I can sign that can make sure we're getting repeat violent offenders off of our streets.
Are you demanding the Democrats do that?
I'm going to be working with our legislature to ensure that we can have legislation that will move, make it to my desk, and that I will sign to make sure we're getting and keeping violent offenders off of our streets.
Not a direct answer from the governor about the Violent Firearms Offender Act, which called for tougher penalties for repeat violent offenders. Meanwhile, State Senator Antonio Hayes suggests narrowing who is allowed to be released under the diminution credit system. Would you support legislation that eliminates the good time served credits for someone in a situation like this?
It depends. When it comes to extreme levels of violence, I think that is something worth considering.
And remember, the bill targeting repeat violent offenders has been introduced year after year after year without movement. So it's unclear if 2024 will be any different. Now, I also asked Governor Westmore's office if he supports reevaluating the diminution credit system, and I'm told all options are on the table to ensure Maryland communities are safe. We're live in the newsroom. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Kenzie, thank you. House Speaker Adrian Jones and Senate President Bill Ferguson are two of the most powerful lawmakers in Annapolis. If you want to contact them about public safety legislation, their phone numbers and email addresses on your screen right there. You can call 410-841-3800 to reach Jones. Same number, but 3600 to get in touch with Ferguson.
And if you'd like to connect with more of your elected leaders, our website makes it easy. Go to foxbaltimore.com, click the menu at the top left of your screen and select Lawmakers. From there, you can enter your home address to find the officials who represent you at the local, state, and federal levels.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do Maryland's current crime laws make you feel more safe or less safe? You can make your voice heard right now at foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Still ahead, growing calls for Senator Menendez to resign, the push coming from his own party.
But first, the Orioles' magic number to clinch the AL East down to 1. Morgan Atzett will join us live from Camden Yards with all of the highlights.
And we have our next chance for showers tonight, and that's followed by more rain tomorrow. However, we're not talking a washout, and by tomorrow night, we return to a nice and dry pattern. Coming up, I'll have a closer look at the timing of the rain, and I'll let you know what to expect for the rest of the weekend.
Fox 45 News, winner of 16 2022 Regional Emmy Awards, more than all other Baltimore news stations combined.
Well, taking you live to Camden Yards, where in just over an hour, the Orioles will face off against the Boston Red Sox. It comes after they were able to score a victory over the Washington Nationals last night, 5-1. And if they win tonight, they would clinch their first AL East title in 9 years. Morgan Atzett joins us live from the ballpark with everything we need to know heading into tonight's big game. Morgan?
Hey, Mary. Yeah, it doesn't get any more simple than tonight for the Orioles and Birdland. The Tampa Bay Rays are off, so rooting for a Rays loss is out of the picture. But what can happen tonight? The Orioles can eliminate that magic number of 1 if they get a win over the Boston Red Sox. The Orioles are, of course, already in the postseason, but a win tonight would give them their first AL East title since 2014. Also, to keep the Orioles at the top of the American League, and that's something they're going to want for the postseason. There's also something else at stake, 100 wins. The O's sit at 99, and when this rebuild started in 2018, they've been on the other end 3 times with 3 100-loss seasons. Some of those Birds remember that well and know how special tonight can be for this franchise.
That much losing, it kind of wears on you a little bit, and just to be a part of a winning clubhouse, there's nothing like it, and you just want to, you just want it so bad, and to finally be here, it feels special.
Yeah, it's just the process of how some seasons go. In a position to be able to come through those bad years and be on a team where we've turned things around in a pretty quick way. So it's been a lot of fun, and looking forward to seeing what we do after tonight.
Both Cedric Mullins and John Means made their MLB debuts in 2018 when this rebuild got underway, so they were part of those 3 100-loss seasons in that short amount of time. A win today, they not only win the AL East, they get 100 wins on the season. That hasn't happened since 1980. Ironically enough, did not make the postseason then. That would not happen tonight. Reporting live at Camden Yards, I'm Morgan Atzett for Sports Unlimited.
Morgan, thank you. Remember, you can catch the American League playoff action, which includes the O's, right here on Fox 45. Coverage of the ALDS and ALCS starts October 10th. And, of course, the World Series begins October 27th, and you can catch every game right here on Fox 45. Now, a lot of you getting out to the ballpark last night, while others showed their support from home. June sent us this picture of Puppy, but it's a cat, as we see, but it's named Puppy. I like that. Watching the big game. Yes, we do believe. And we want to see how you're cheering on the O's this season. You can scan the QR code on your screen. It'll take you to foxbaltimore.com/chime in, where you can upload your pictures and your videos. It is all powered by Stackla. Well, if you're heading down to the ballpark tonight, you may want to wear some long sleeves or bring a coat. Let's bring in meteorologist Jasmine Lomax with a look at the ballpark forecast. Jasmine?
Thanks, Mary. That's right. We are talking temperatures on the cooler side right now. 69 and mostly cloudy. A great view of Camden Yards in the background. But notice those winds out of the east around 11 miles per hour. Temperatures will continue to drop, and it could be breezy at times. So if you are heading to the game, you want to make sure that you have the layers. Otherwise, across the state, we're mainly seeing temperatures in the 60s. It's been on the cooler side, very cloudy, but we are still nice and dry. Really not much to see on the HD radar around our state. However, taking a wider view around the region, we see a few areas with showers. We've got a little bit of rain just off the coast, and also some showers closer to Pennsylvania. We'll have the chance for a few stray showers tonight, but it won't be a washout. Our temperatures will fall to the 50s and 60s, and then tomorrow afternoon, we start to see a drier pattern, especially by the afternoon. Temperatures will reach the 60s and the 70s. Notice on the future scan, as we get closer to 6:30, we're tracking a few very spotty showers around Baltimore. Otherwise, it'll be mostly cloudy. Our rain chances begin to pick up as we get closer to 10-11, so make sure that around that time you are prepared for some showers. Maybe have a poncho just to be on the safe side. Overnight, we will have the chance for stray showers, but it's looking okay for Friday morning. Around 7-8, the chance for a stray shower, otherwise mostly cloudy skies. You may be driving on some wet roads, but we'll start to see a drier pattern return for the afternoon. Your evening commute looks good, and then we'll stay mostly dry overnight and into Saturday. Some areas waking up to sunshine, the chance for a few stray showers along the eastern shore, but for the afternoon it looks much better. Most of the rain stays away from us. Meanwhile, in the Atlantic Basin, we're keeping watch on two areas. We've got Tropical Storm Philippe and also Rena. Both of those are expected to stay away from land, but impacts could be felt along the northern Leeward Islands, also along the British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. So still keeping watch on the Atlantic Basin. It remains very active. 60 for the low temperature tonight with a few showers. And then tomorrow, not a washout for the day. High temperatures reach 69, so expect another cool and cloudy one. This is followed by a slight rising trend for the rest of the weekend. 73 on Saturday with partly cloudy skies. Then 80 and sunny on Sunday for a great end to the weekend. 82 and sunny on Monday. We'll stay in the low 80s on Tuesday and Wednesday. And then by Thursday, we'll have a slight drop in temperatures. Highs will be around 77 with partly cloudy skies. Back to you.
Jasmine, thank you. Still ahead tonight, the clock is ticking for leaders to come to an agreement in order to avoid a government shutdown. The deal currently on the table and why some lawmakers are against it.
Indicted New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez addressing Democratic colleagues after pleading not guilty in a bribery case. I'm Atrell Nashar with what his future looks like in the U.S. Senate.
Making headlines tonight, New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez tells his Democratic colleagues he will not resign. Menendez allegedly accepted bribes to use his influence to benefit the Egyptian government and a group of businessmen. National correspondent Atrell Nashar reports on what comes next.
New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez left a Manhattan courtroom Wednesday after he and his wife pleaded not guilty to federal corruption charges. Then traveled to Washington, where he now tries to convince his Democratic colleagues that he should keep his job.
I will continue to cast votes on behalf of the people of New Jersey, as I have for 18 years.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer not saying yet if Menendez should resign.
For senators, there's a much, much higher standard. And clearly, when you read the indictment, Senator Menendez fell way, way below that standard.
Menendez has temporarily stepped down from his chairmanship on the Foreign Relations Committee, as is required under Senate bylaws. Senator Patty Murray of Washington State says if he does not resign, the Senate Ethics Committee should open up an investigation. And leaders of that committee signal they're prepared for that to happen. A majority of Senate Democrats have called on him to step down. The first was Pennsylvania's John Fetterman.
You know, that arrogance, where he's now saying, I'm not going anywhere. It's like, my dude, you are going somewhere. And it's going to be an election, or it's going to be a conviction, or you have the opportunity for an honorable exit.
Largely silent on this are Senate Republicans.
Should he have access to classified information in the SCIF? Should he resign? Should he be expelled?
I think that's an issue for the Democrats to deal with.
They may see themselves in an awkward position as the front runner of their party's presidential primary, former President Trump, is facing 4 indictments of his own. And very few Republican lawmakers are calling on him to step away from politics. Instead, the party's line has been to criticize the Department of Justice. Menendez now, too, accusing prosecutors of framing the charges to be as salacious as possible and insists he'll be exonerated. The question is, will he still be a sitting U.S. senator when the case is closed? On Capitol Hill, I'm Atra El-Nashar reporting.
Coming up after the break, an alarming new report surrounding Baltimore City educators and their retirement funds. The Inspector General joins us live in studio to weigh in.
A government shutdown looking increasingly likely. I'm Kayla Gaskins on Capitol Hill, and coming up, we talk to one of the GOP hardliners standing in the way of a compromise.
Well, $5 million, that's how much money city schools failed to invest in the retirement of a number of employees.
That's right, and those findings came to light today from the Baltimore City Inspector General. IG Isabel Cumming joins us live in studio right now to talk about this. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
474 city school employees are impacted by this. Walk us through this investigation. What did you find?
Well, we got a complaint that came in that there was about 500 employees that were not getting their retirement monies taken out. And we actually ended up doing an investigation into it, and it turned out that there was a communication problem between the employment retirement fund and the city schools. And we had to break it down to determine what exactly happened. And because we had a new retirement system start in 2014, and what happened was the people that between the 2014 to 2020, they ended up getting basically lost. They never got enrolled in the system. And there were people that were, because it takes 10 years to vest, there were people that were going to be coming up on retirement and suddenly finding out for the first time they had no retirement monies.
Wow.
People that had put a lot of work in, which was the cafeteria workers, the janitors, the bus drivers. It was, but luckily, as a result of this, of us doing the investigation, it all came to light, and we were able within a time span of about 5 weeks to have the people, individuals, get their money funded. And it just shows that government, okay, when they do talk, we can get things done.
All right, Isabel, we understand last year an audit of the city's retirement system flagged this issue. And according to your investigation, school leaders were also aware of this as early as 2019. First, why was this not addressed? And Mary and I just did a story about Gen Xers realizing they don't have enough money to retire on.
Right.
So what does this say to you?
Well, in this case, what happened was in 2020, they realized that this mistake had happened, and they realized they had about 500 and some people that this affected. But then came the pandemic, and the pandemic to the school system just made all hands on deck. And so it wasn't addressed. And then at that point, you know, they changed it so that everybody 220 forward and that joined, they got theirs correctly set up, but they became the lost group. And even the head of the school system, Dr. Sonia Sanalisis, she did not realize that earlier group was not fixed when they did their fix in 220. So when she realized it, when we met with her, that's when, you know, she met with the school board, they approved the monies, they were able to fix this situation. And going forward, you know, the communication between these two entities, I believe, will be working much better.
Okay, so the $5 million is back in the accounts of where it should be, correct?
Yes, thank God. So because there are people that are just coming up on retirement.
Yes.
And these are people that, you know, they could have, you know, $20,000. You can't be hit with a bill like that when you're living paycheck to paycheck.
No,
Absolutely
no.
not.
All right, Isabel,
Right.
Thank you so much, Inspector General, for coming in and talking to us about this. We're glad that it all got set straight for sure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, Fox 45 News is following 3 big stories for you at 5:30.
A looming government shutdown, top of the minds for leaders in Washington. We'll break down the impact that could have on you.
And Maryland's budget dwindling. We press state leaders on where that money is going.
Plus, a water warning tonight for some families with young children and the elderly and the immunocompromised and those who are immunocompromised in portions of Baltimore region. Baltimore City DPW says a microscopic parasite was detected in Druid Lake Reservoir.
And we have team coverage covering all of our top stories tonight.
Let's begin with Amy Simpson. Certain vulnerable populations are being advised to consider precautions when turning on their tap water. Amy joins us live with details. Amy.
Yes, Mary Kai, this impact zone includes portions of Baltimore City and Baltimore and Howard counties. Today, a city DPW telling me that more than 570,000 residents fall under this advisory. Well, it sounds like we're having some technical difficulties there. Again, there's some questions today about the timing of this water testing that was done here at Druid Lake, when those results were returned here in Baltimore City, and when the public began being notified. We have much more coverage, and you can take a look. If you fall under this impact zone, that's up on foxbaltimore.com. Mary Kai, back to you.
All right, Amy, thank you. We'll try to get Amy's report for you as soon as we can. Today, Baltimore City officials were adamant that the parasite is not a threat to the general population, but this map does show how large the potential impact zone is, stretching across 3 jurisdictions. And today, Baltimore City officials shared a warning for the elderly, those with young children, and the immunocompromised in the impact zone.
Well, tonight, state leaders are taking a hard look at Maryland's financial future amid reports a massive deficit is looming.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor is looking out for your tax dollars. Rebecca joins us live right now with more on how this could impact you. Rebecca?
Yeah, Mary and Kai, new projections are still putting the state's bank account in the negatives within the next decade. It's leaving lawmakers with few options. Are they going to cut spending or raise taxes?
As we prepare to introduce our next budget for fiscal year 2025 come January, the administration's work is cut out for us.
Slowing economic growth across the state, putting Maryland's massive $3 billion rainy day fund at risk of drying up.
These low growth rates do not keep pace with growth in expenditures, hence the structural deficit that we face.
Budget and Management Secretary Helene Grady projecting an even more dire outlook than this June report, in which the Department of Legislative Services predicting the previous structural surplus fueled by federal COVID funding will dive to a more than $400 million deficit by 2025, a deficit that will continue to grow to $1.8 billion by 2028, potentially emptying the state's current reserves.
We must continue to proceed with a degree of caution moving forward.
Now it's up to, in many ways, the legislature to figure out, okay, how are we going to balance things out, especially when you have all these different priorities?
According to political analyst John Deedy, costly legislative promises made by Governor Wes Moore could be on the chopping block, including the blueprint for Maryland's future, scheduled to increase education funding by $3.8 billion each year over the next 8 years, and the Red Line, another multi-billion-dollar investment in mass transit.
I think that the problem is that a lot of the big dreams you have as a candidate often don't become the big reality.
And unless he wants to raise taxes on the citizens of Maryland, they're going to have to cut spending.
Although from higher taxes to increased tolls, taxpayer advocates warn against balancing the budget on the backs of voters struggling to save in a struggling economy.
There's going to be a lot of blowback.
And that's going to be unpopular, and it's going to be bad for the economy of Maryland.
State leaders also warning today that these financial projections may only get worse should a government shutdown take effect this Sunday. Reporting live in Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Taking a live look at our nation's capital tonight, the U.S. government will shut down at midnight this Saturday if Republicans and Democrats fail to find a compromise.
National correspondent Kayla Gaskin spoke with one Republican standing in the way of a deal.
A government shutdown this weekend is looking more likely as the clock runs out on Capitol Hill.
No foreign enemy has ever been able to shut down the government of the United States, but now MAGA Republicans are about to do just that.
The Senate striking a bipartisan compromise deal to fund the government through November 17th, but Speaker Kevin McCarthy giving it no hope in the House.
Will I accept and surrender to what Senate decides? The answer is no.
The issue, according to McCarthy, is the Democratic-led Senate left out additional border funding. McCarthy has another hurdle: 5 hardline House conservatives that critics have dubbed the Chaos Caucus.
I've got members who will not vote to have a stopgap measure to continue to fund government. I got members who say they'll never vote for a nominee. Well, if you won't do any of that, it's hard to govern.
We spoke with the group's de facto leader, Florida Representative Matt Gaetz.
Where America's lawmakers gather and take one up or down vote on funding the entire government. That is crazy.
Do you worry that voters will blame Republicans for any negative effects of a shutdown? People, hundreds of thousands of people having to work without pay?
It's a great question. And honestly, that fear of shutdown politics is what has led us to sit atop a $33 trillion debt. While I certainly hope we can get this resolved before anyone misses a paycheck, that's my goal. I am not a cheerleader for a shutdown.
Gates sending a letter to the House's chief administrative officer requesting his pay be withheld if the shutdown occurs, going against the Constitution, which states members of Congress must continue to receive pay during any lapses in appropriations.
Could some of this infighting in the Republican Party lead to efforts to oust the Speaker?
Speaker McCarthy cannot use Democrat votes to advance the spending priorities of Joe Biden and expect that he's going to remain the Republican Speaker.
Gates is just one of a handful of Republicans threatening McCarthy's speakership. So even if McCarthy survives this, the group will likely remain a thorn in his side for battles ahead. On Capitol Hill, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Coming up after the break, it is National Beer Day, and Guinness Open Gate Brewery is offering some perfect fall flavors. A sneak peek at those coming up after the break.
And right now we are nice and dry. It looks good over Camden Yards, but later tonight we do have our next chance for showers, and that could continue into tomorrow morning. I'll break down the timing of the rain and what to expect for the rest of the evening coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.